It's in minutes. Now, my name is Filina. I'm a developer, primarily PHP, but I'll be talking about HTML and stuff. I'm a problem solver. I'm also a coach and an advisor. And that's all you need to know about me for now. Now, the objectives of this presentation is I want to show you how you can create mobile sites. Creating the sites can be long and costly, and it's also very annoying. So, you know, you start developing for the mobile, you start doing HTML, and then the image is too big, you know, the text is too small, you have to scroll sideways, and then pixels don't align when you try to line things up. The tiny links are close together, so you never know which one you're going to hit, so you click the wrong stuff. And on the mobile, it takes so much time to load that you have to go back and then like pinch zoom and then try to get the right link out of a stack of 20. So I want to show you that it can be done very quickly and that you can focus on building features rather than worrying about this layout, which is the fun part. I'll walk you through building a fully responsive site without all the headaches. And at the end of this presentation, I want you to be excited about what you learn and go ahead and want to try it and be confident in your abilities. So the alternatives to building a responsive website is you can build an application. But the application requires you to download, requires the users to download the entire application. So for example, you detect that the user that comes to your site is using a mobile device. You can present them with a page that says, please download our app. Now they have to download it, find a space for it on their desktop, and then have to go back there. But the thing is, if they don't need to go back there a second time, then it would have been a waste. And they're out of memory on their phone, like myself all the time. I can't install anything new because I have no more memory. Also, it requires a lot of development effort and maintenance. And the thing is, you don't just develop for all the devices that exist today, but you also have to plan ahead for all the devices that will come out. So a new phone will come out, half of your stuff is deprecated. Now you have to put all this effort, have all these developers on different platforms in order to move forward. You can also build an alternative site. For example, you will detect that the person using a mobile device, you will check the screen size and redirect to the appropriate site. But yeah, there's redirects and you can get stuck in a loop. And what happens when the person comes from Twitter, for example, they click a link, so now they have a mobile site, but then maybe some pages haven't been implemented for the mobile or some forms are not going to work. So now you have to like force redirect them back to the full site. So it can be quite a mess. And once again, it takes additional development effort and maintenance because you'll be maintaining essentially two websites. So if it's you know, you have to rewrite all your queries there. You can copy paste a few things, but still, you're going to be putting in a lot of effort. Now, with the responsive design, there's no need to redirect. So the exact same page simply adjusts to the screen size that is available. So that means actually that if you take a typical browser and build a responsive site, you can just shrink the browser size and things will realign properly according to the rules you've specified. So it's very easy to test after that. A lot less effort to test because you just, you know, develop on one platform and don't need to buy all these tablets because you know it's going to work. If they use standard HTML rules, then it's going to work. So you only develop and maintain one site. The only effort is you need to organize your HTML with responsive design in mind. And add the necessary CSS rules. And that's all you need to maintain. So this is just an example of something that we will build throughout this presentation. It's not the real Confu site. The real Confu site has a lot more complex rules. So Confu is a conference I organized back in Montreal. So what we'll do is we'll create something that this is what it will look like on a bigger screen. And on the side to compare, this is what it will look like on a much smaller screen. And yeah, I took speakers I knew were going to be here that have also spoken at Confu before. Hey, Raphael. Yeah. So what is Bootstrap? It's basically helper CSS classes. You just download a big CSS, and it's got classes in there that you can go and attach to different HTML tags, and it will just work out of the box. So for example, you can say class equal navbar, so this UL is going to start behaving like a navigation bar. You have JavaScript for some more advanced features, such as proper drop-downs. So if you have a menu, for example, with submenus, then you click, and it's going to drop down. You can have like dialogues pop up. You have additional features that you can use with JavaScript. Tabs, for example, organizing your content, such as the schedule for CakeFest. And it works on any modern device. In the past, we had problem with the volume of devices. You know, some didn't support HTML5. Now almost everything does. So if you don't want to worry about devices that were built 15 years ago, then you won't. The advantages of it is that a lot of people use it, so you're sure to find a lot of help. If you go to a forum, you go anywhere, you know, there's a lot of help available for that. It's got a very detailed documentation with some very good examples. And there's many themes available online that you can just, you know, download for free, or some of them you have to pay, but it's really not very expensive. So you can find a lot of themes. It's easy to learn and to use. The thing about it is that it's not tied into any specific framework. Like if you build your backend with whatever you want, and this is just the presentation layer, so you don't need to worry about downloading themes that are specific to a certain framework or CMS, for example. So let me show you how easy it is to use. First thing you do is you drop the CSS file into your head tag. So you just add the Bootstrap CSS. Let's assume that we're not using any advanced features for now. And you wrap your entire page content in a container. So your body will have a container. This is going to enable the grid layout, which you will become familiar over this presentation. And then you create rows. So basically, it's like tables, rows, but they're very fluid. They adapt. So you say, for example, in the row, we add two columns. And SM means small. So these rules only apply if you have 768 pixels available and more. So anything smaller, it's actually going to default to 12 columns. So it's going to stack one on top of the other. So it's going to look like that, and as you shrink, you know, the columns shrink, and then at some point it just stacks. So you don't need to scroll horizontal anymore. So this is the example of an output that you can produce with that. So this is a small device, and anything above that. And as you shrink, eventually it will become extra small, and it will default to 12 columns. Think of them as spanning a 12-column table. That's how you should think when you develop with Bootstrap. But you notice that when I use small, there is a border around the entire element. And when it's extra small, you have like a border just at the bottom. And this is a custom CSS rule I've written. And you're going to write quite a few of those for all the exceptions you want to handle. So I'll just show you how you write all of these exceptions. So let's assume that we put an example div inside the column. Don't put div directly on the column, because then it screws things up a little bit. You should use columns solely for the layout, and then whatever content has to be inside them. Because the columns, they have like some predefined padding and margins, and if you start applying stuff on that element, then you might, if you start adding margins, then elements will not behave as expected. So, and then you write, no, I don't know, white align, so weird. You write media queries, and this is just standard CSS. You write media, and you specify what is the maximum width for which all of these rules will apply. So it's like you namespace your CSS rules. So for everything that's under 667, you're going to display, you're going to remove all the borders, and you're just going to do a bottom border of 1 pixel, and you adjust the padding. And for everything else, we're going to do a full border all around. And so when it resizes, as the example 2 element is going to go underneath example 1, it will also trigger those rules, and you will have different styling. You can change font sizes, you can change anything you want, which would make sense in certain contexts. Okay, so you have 4 sizes to consider. There's XS, extra small, so sometimes you want to override the default of 12 columns, and so the extra small typically applies to phones. So this is what it will look like on a typical smartphone. SM is mostly for tablets, medium is for desktops, and large is like if you have a large desktop or a big projector. Okay, so let's build a complete site. I will show you, like header, all of those elements there, and we will align them using Bootstrap. So this is what we want the header for the site to look on a small device, and on an extra small device, we want the text to go underneath the logo, and we also want to collapse the menu. So a collapse menu is very interesting, is in that you can just click on it and then you get all the same elements, but it's only one button because you don't want to pollute the screen with like 50 links or how many links you want to put there. So this is what it will look like. If you think in terms of columns, it has to adapt to 12, right? So you take 6 column there, 6 column here, and it will just align them basically side by side. Now on a small device, what you'll do is still 12 columns, although it's less pixels. You will divide it differently. You will leave more space for the logo and text, and a tiny space for the link with the collapsible menu. So when you click on it, you're going to get a drop-down. And this is how we set it up. We simply say for the first div, we say call XS8. So extra small, we said it's going to be 8, wider for the logo. And on a small device and up, so remember it's always small and up, you divide it into 2, so 6. And then inside the second div, you add your navigation bar. So this is how we divide it. Now inside the navigation bar, you also have a lot of Bootstrap classes that you can use. You can use a header and the actual menu that will be collapsed. So the menu button, when it's visible, it's going to be a button with a certain class. What you need to worry about is specifically the parts that are underlined. What's important is that it's a data toggle collapse. So it's a collapsible menu that expands. And the data targets is which menu do you actually want this button to affect. So you tie them together like that. And the other menu is going to be collapse. So when it shrinks, it automatically triggers all the necessary rules and it becomes a single button. Everything good so far? All right. So the second part of our website is a spotlight. The spotlight is where you can put, like cycling images or whatever you like. I decided to add a few images. So I have 3 images side by side. And when it's extra small, I decided that stacking 3 images doesn't make sense because they're still going to take up so much space and you'll be scrolling through images in order to get to the content. So I decided to only keep 1 image. And you can do that without writing anything custom. You just do it directly using Bootstrap. So the way we achieve that is we create divs that are 4 columns. So basically you have 3 divs side by side, 4 times 3, 12. So you got your 12 columns total. And you want the first and the last one to be hidden for extra small screens. So you say hidden XS, and that will make them disappear or invisible. They're still going to load, unfortunately, because of how HTML is processed by the browser. There are tricks for that, however. There are things you can download that can override these things. But by default, they're going to load. But at least they will be hidden, so your screen won't be cluttered with all those images. And every image that we add inside those divs is going to have a class called image responsive. IMG responsive, what it does is basically you have a certain height, and it's going to fill proportionally the width available to it. So as your screen shrinks, the images are going to shrink proportionally until you reach extra small and they just disappear. But yeah, your images are actually going to be scaled by the browser, which is pretty cool. And once again, you think that on small devices, since the images might be a lot smaller, perhaps you want to load a different version of the image, which is more lightweight. And there are some additional tools you can use on your website to achieve that. Basically, like using different tags and put the various images you want to load. And some JavaScript is going to pick it up and load the appropriate, replace the source tag and thus loading the appropriate image. I'll just give you a link at the end so you can play with it. Now, in the content, what we want is to have, oh, hi, Dave, wherever you are. There you are. Yeah, I put you too, so I hope you're flattered. Okay. So what we do in the content is we add the responsive video and we stack the speaker list. And notice that the button has an icon, and I'll also show you what Bootstrap does to enable you to use some really cool icons all over your site. And we want the image to be left aligned also. And when the text exceeds the height of the image, you want to make sure that it doesn't wrap, because otherwise it doesn't look good. So I'll also show you how to achieve that. 22 minutes. Yeah, I have time. Okay. So for the content, we begin with the video. So what you do is you create a div to encompass the iframe into which you will load the YouTube video. And so the container is going to be embed responsive, and then you will give it the aspect ratio of the video. So it's either 4:3 or 16:9. And so that will constrain your iframe appropriately. You don't specify the size for the iframe. That's the container's responsibility. The iframe itself is going to be marked with a class embed responsive item so that they can communicate with each other and apply the proper CSS rules. And then just put the source. So as you resize the browser, then the video also shrinks proportionally. But you have to be careful, because not every content that you embed is actually responsive. So I know for a fact that there are some SlideShare doesn't provide responsive content. For example, if you embed speaker deck, then yeah, it's going to scale nicely. But SlideShare, you specify which size you want when you embed SlideShare, and it's just going to be there sitting like that. So you have to be mindful of what you're embedding. Like my solution to try and embed SlideShare is just not to embed it. I just put a link instead. You know, I didn't want to. After messing with it for about a few hours, I said, you know what? Never mind. I'll just send them a request to, you know, like, make your stuff responsive, please. That was my solution to the problem. Now, the images, the images aligned with the text that I showed you for the speaker profile. You can use a wrapper called media, and then you'll have a media object, which is the image, and you tell it pull left or pull right, so it's going to float them appropriately. And then the actual content that you're going to put, whatever you like, is going to be in media body. So it's going to align everything properly, apply all the paddings and margins, so that, you know, PHP devs can actually focus on PHP and not worry about why is my CSS container, like, the border is all weird, like smaller than the contents, like the content exceeds the container. It's weird stuff that happens when you're not very familiar with CSS. And this just takes all of that effort out of the equation. Now, something I used for the button is an icon. And those icons also come standard in Bootstrap. And there's 200 different icons. And the cool thing is that those icons are not images, they're glyphs. So it's like a font, and a bunch of UTF-8 characters correspond to different images. So the icons are actually font characters. And this is pretty cool because then you can style them the same way you style any font. You can have like a shadow, you can have color, change the background color. So it's pretty cool. So if you have, for example, some text and an icon next to it, the icon is going to behave exactly the same way as the rest of the text. So you just write one style, like color blue, and it's going to color everything appropriately. So you take a span or any other container you like, and you just say glyph, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, glyph icon and glyph icon user. So you write those two. There's user, there's star, there's heart, there's link, there's file, there's 200 of them, and there's a reference on the Bootstrap website, and you can use all of them. So you can put them next to menu items, you can put them just like that, you can put them inside buttons. So here's an example. I took a simple span and I styled it differently to show you the possibilities. So this is a cloud. You can change its color, its background, the size of the font. So by resizing the font, you actually nicely resize the whole image, and you can like apply shadow to it. It also can respond to the various transitions and animations that you have in CSS3. And I guarantee you that once you start using those icons, if you're anything like me, you'll become addicted to it, and you're going to want to put them everywhere on your page. Like at some point, I had to step back and say, well, I think I'm using too many icons. Maybe I should cut back on that. It was a hard decision. So the final result is what you see here. And I have a lot of time to go. I'll show you other stuff in the meantime. So some useful links. You can see which browsers are supported. Some browsers, for compatibility, require you to download some additional CSS files and even JavaScript files if you want to support like older versions of Internet Explorer, for example. And when I talked about responsive image replacement, there's a tool. So I gave you a GitHub link, and you can just go to go there, and it's going to show you how you can specify different paths for different images based on what size your screen is. So before we go to the last slide, I'm going to show you going to show you what it actually looks like in a browser. So here it is. So this is the first example I showed you with the various text boxes. And see, I just resized the browser, and this is what happens. At 767 pixels, it becomes like a phone. And there you go. There you have it. You can click. It's all nice. See, the border has changed. And this will look like that on the desktop. Now, the header. This is the header. This is the menu. Now let's resize it. See, it became a simple button. Now I open the menu. I navigate. I click, where I want to go, and I just close the menu. This is what it looks like. So all of this was achieved just through the few styles I showed you. And actually, I have already actually put all of these code examples on GitHub, and I will tweet a link, and you will be able to go and play with it right away. So yeah, it's pretty simple. And you can even just copy paste stuff into your project. That's okay. It's all supposed to work perfectly. So let's just go back, and I'll show you the spotlight. So here are the images. See how they scale proportion. I don't have much screen room, but yeah, they resize based on the space available. And once it's really small, then it resizes like that. And here you go. And it also resizes in the small version until you have no more, you cannot go any smaller. So that's it. Now, let's go back. I will show you the content with the video. I'm not going to show you the video. You can do it by yourself. But why can I not grab it? It's some very interesting hand-eye coordination. Come on. Give me a break. Okay, there it is. That's why. Okay, here. Now, see, it resizes the video nicely. There you go. And there it is. You see it exceeds, but it doesn't go to the other side. There you have it. So, and you just press play. All right, let's go to another part. Content, we did the complete site and those icons I showed you earlier. You see there, you can select them because they use like background, they're using like before and after CSS rules, so they're not actually selectable, but they are simple characters. I can prove this to you. Page source. You see, they're just it's just a span, and I'm using the CSS here is going to take the font from the fonts folder, which includes all of these, and there you have it. It's just where they have it: style, invert style, small style, shadow, and I use that in the CSS in order to style them. So yeah, any questions so far? One, yeah?
Do you only resize the images?
I'm sorry, I have to see your face though.
Okay. What about the images? Should those on the mobile phone showing the full, or actually downloading the full scale of the picture?
Okay, so you asked me about how do I replace images for mobile? Yeah, so the tool that you download allows you to add a different attribute, which is not processed by the browser in order to preload all the images. So, and in there you can specify that for this and that size of the screen, you want to use a different path. And so the JavaScript, what we will do, we will read that attribute and extract the necessary path once the page is loaded. So you have slight delay, but once the page is loaded, it's going to extract that part, and it's going to load and basically programmatically replace the source path with the size of the browser.
Yeah, okay. Also got another question. You said something about the hidden access. You could do something with some kind of program, so it wouldn't be sent to the browser as well, right?
Okay, so with hidden access, programmatically you could potentially make them not preload. I haven't tried that specific combination, but I'm sure you can figure it out. Once you download the JavaScript file on GitHub, you can check it out, see what's their API and how you can bend it to your needs, and maybe even make hidden access automatically not loading. If you can hook up into some event of that tool, perhaps you can prevent it from loading. Anyone else? Aren't you guys just itching to try it with different technologies? I'll give you a few more minutes. Yes?
Yeah, so besides Bootstrap, there is a variety of CSS techniques like atomic CSS, object-oriented CSS, block element modifier. Have you tried them?
If I tried some different, so you're saying that Bootstrap comes with different CSS versions? I believe you're talking about the less versions, like you can use with less.
I'm talking about CSS techniques like
I don't know about something called object-oriented CSS, to be honest. I don't.
atomic CSS or BEM, block element modifier.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about block modifiers, atomic CSS. I honestly don't know. I haven't tried those advanced techniques. I'm just doing this. This is as far as I can go. So CSS is one of my specialties. Then there's JavaScript, there's PHP. I've written some Python. I've written some Ruby. So yeah, I don't necessarily delve deep into something as advanced as object-oriented CSS.
Have you been using Bootstrap, and have you been faced to maintaining Bootstrap code base to migrate from versions to versions?
Okay, so
from an outside point of view, I feel like it changes quite quickly, and I wonder if it's easy to maintain.
okay, so the question is, how do you manage migration between different versions of Bootstrap because it's changing so quickly? When I began using Bootstrap, for the first time I tried it, it was still Bootstrap 3 release candidate 1. So there was a lot of changes, some frustration because classes became deprecated, others were added or changed names. I think they've stabilized it now. As for migrating between different versions, I personally haven't had a chance to do so. So I couldn't tell you whether it's easy to maintain. I know for a fact that they are going to be discontinuing, based on some of the tickets I opened, they will be discontinuing certain features like dividers within menus. They said that they might discontinue it. I don't know if they'll stay true to their word, but if they do, I'll have to find another way to do that. But that's only if I want to upgrade my website. So, well, the interesting thing about, I guess, maintaining a Bootstrap website for the future is if you ever make database entries that include Bootstrap styling elements, then you must think about techniques to search and replace them. Because in the code, it's fairly straightforward. You just search, replace class, change its name, but then you also have to think about doing it in your database. Because I know for a fact I publish stuff sometimes and I use Bootstrap elements inside the content that I publish using my tools. So that's it. Okay, so I'll show you my last slide now. So, oh, and I will tweet a link to the GitHub repository for the examples, and I will also tweet the link to the slides, so you will be able to review them. So yeah, I said I do a whole bunch of stuff. Some of the services I offer are development, PHP, JavaScript. So FoolLab is my company. And I fix problems such as bugs and performance issues. So you have something, your site is about to explode. It's September and it's back to school, so I can help you with that. I do coaching, I do workshops. I even coach remotely, so I have some mentees in other countries, different time zones. So that's not really a problem if you stay here in Madrid. I'm also an advisor. I help people with elaborating their testing strategies, architecture, and such. So that's me, and that's it.